Hello and welcome back to the Cover 6 podcast. My name is Joah, and today I'm joined by Kyle,
What's up, guys?
Brian,
Yo, what's going on?
Thomas,
How's it going?
and I have a huge guest here today. It's Bengal. He's a YouTuber, Madden YouTuber. He does a lot of videos, NCAA 14, big football guy. How you doing, Bengal?
It's quite the introduction. I'm all right. It's good to be here.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you on, talk about some football, some players in the draft, players in free agency. I mean, we all know what happened a couple days ago. Free agency does start tomorrow.
Wednesday.
Does it? Yeah, I thought it was 14th.
Yeah,
I think it's the 13th, which is... Wait, is it 13th or 14th?
It's the 13th.
I think it's tomorrow. It's the start of the legal tampering, as some people like to call it.
4 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday. Is the official time.
On Wednesday?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Are you
it's
sure?
Wednesday the 13th.
Yeah, 4 p.m. Eastern.
Positive. Yeah, I see
Thursday,
that.
okay. Yeah.
Okay, but I think they can begin negotiations like before that, but I don't think that like the league year starts and players can be signed until that day. I'm not 100% sure. That's fine. But AB to the Raiders for a third and a fifth. Anybody got some opinions on that? Was it a fleece?
Yeah, it's an absolute fleece in my eyes. It's 2 mid-round picks for the best receiver in football, arguably.
I don't think he's the best anymore. Definitely top 5. Probably top 3.
Yeah,
but
definitely top 3.
I really
at least.
can't. I really can't put him at number 1 anymore with the year that DeAndre Hopkins had, and arguably right now, skill set wise, Julio is more of a skilled receiver in my opinion.
Yeah, with the emergence of Juju Smith-Schuster on the Steelers, it really took away from his targets. But he did rack up a whole bunch of yards. But the Raiders didn't really have to give up a lot. Mike Mayock with a great deal, in my opinion. Any thoughts, Bengal?
I mean, I'm curious to see if you guys have seen the numbers on Antonio Brown last year, because he was targeted 168 times.
Yeah.
Caught over 100 passes, 1,300 yards, 15 touchdowns. I mean, that's pretty damn good.
Yeah, I'm not
Very.
denying his.
Yeah.
Skill.
We-
No way I'm denying his skill. I think just because of his off the field issues, he gets a little bit of a bad rap. Like that shouldn't affect how people look at his play on the field last year. I just think that in the upcoming years, especially with that new contract, I don't think he'll be able to live up to that contract as they hope.
That is a huge deal.
Especially with
but
Derek Carr at quarterback.
there's some wide receivers looking for extensions. Julio Jones is going to look for a big extension. It's going to probably start with a 2. Same thing for Michael Thomas. They're all looking for huge deals now that we've seen arguably top 3, top 2 receiver in football get a huge contract after being traded from what seems to be a crumbling Steelers team in my eyes. Which and brings me to the next point that we will talk about today. It is free agency, like the best free agents available. Just what do you got, Bengal? Who are your 3 best free agents?
I think they're all defensive linemen, or they were at least before the franchise tags. Currently, I would say my best free agent available is Trey Flowers. I think he's just the complete package of what you look for in a defensive end when you talk about someone that's able to defend the run and rush the passer. The sack numbers aren't anything incredible, but it's kind of more about pressure. And when you're playing that defensive end spot, it's about setting the edge, and he does that extremely well. So he's my number 1 guy. I think Tyrann Mathieu right up there. I'm a big Earl Thomas believer, but he's coming into his age 30 season. Landon Collins is one of the best box safeties in the NFL. I mean, there are a lot of good ones. It's loaded up on the defensive side of the ball for sure.
Any concerns? Sorry, Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, do you think that... I mean, I think that Trey Flowers is going to be good no matter where he goes, but do you think he's been aided a little bit the last couple years by playing in a Bill Belichick defensive system, or do you
That's
think that won't
exactly
really
what I was
matter?
going to say.
Yeah, we talked about this
Well,
last week.
They kind of run a hybrid setup, but he's mainly been utilized as a traditional 4-3 defensive end. And if he signs with a team like the Lions and rejoins his old defensive coordinator in Matt Patricia, who's now the head coach of the Lions, I think that'd be a pretty good fit. Match made in heaven, former D coordinator. and they're running a 4-3 defense, you can just slide in right and replace Ezekiel Ansah at right end.
Does the same thing apply to him signing with Brian Flores and the Miami Dolphins, or do you think that just the best match for him is the Detroit Lions?
I think the Lions makes a really good fit. I didn't really think of Miami as a potential landing spot. They're in a pretty bad cap situation based on a number of players that they have to re-sign. Juwan James is one of them. He's arguably the best free agent right tackle available. Darrell Williams is another one that comes to mind, but I just don't think they'd have the money to pursue Trey Flowers. I think the Rams are going to make a play. I think the Raiders could certainly make a play. Even the Packers, but I think Detroit's a pretty good spot. They saved a lot of money letting Ezekiel Ansah walk.
Yeah, makes that division so much scarier with all the defensive talent that we see. The Bears, Vikings, and Matt Patricia's a defensive head coach, and I mean he did struggle a little bit in his first year, but who knows about this second year? He's not a one and done like Steve Wilkes over there in Arizona. What about your 3 best players from the draft? I know, quick transition, but I know you love Nasir Adderley. Anybody else?
I think he's the best safety in the draft. In my eyes.
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah, he's really risen for me the last month or so, month and a half. Kind of overlooked, but now I think he's finally starting to get the recognition he deserves and finally starting to pop up in more and more mocks I'm seeing.
Yeah, that's true. Any other players you guys are looking out for to rise? Maybe, I mean, like we all saw what happened with Ja'Kai Polite at the Combine. He's probably going to fall pretty far. Any other players you guys are looking at?
I mean, Montez Sweat, he's already rised a lot.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm liking both Devins out of the linebacking class for this one. Devin White and Devin Bush, both of them insanely athletic linebackers who could quarterback a defense, pretty much any defense in the league, in my opinion, besides like the Seahawks, whoever, Bobby Wagner. But if the Giants, who I'm a fan of, by the way, they didn't take a quarterback at 6, I'd really like either a tackle or I'd want one of those linebackers that you could pick from any of them, preferably Devin White, just because I'm a big LSU fan too, and I've seen him play. I don't know why he gets so much, I've seen him going in the early teens. I think he's a top 5 talent in the draft, top 5 defensive talent at least.
Yeah. Do you think he's the best linebacker over Josh Allen? I know Josh Allen is not necessarily the best coverage linebacker, not necessarily the best, backup and play zone and cover a running back out the backfield. But do you think that Devin White probably is the better linebacker?
I don't even know if I'd count Josh Allen as a linebacker. I just count him more of an edge player. I'd keep him and Devin White in 2 completely different categories. I wouldn't even try comparing the 2. They're 2 different types of players, and Josh Allen, would I say Josh Allen is more dominant than Devin White? Probably, but is he the better linebacker? I don't think so.
Okay, sounds good. Well, we know that the Raiders are a team that has 3 first-round picks. They also have another early second-round pick, and they just got Antonio Brown to complement that. What some probably see growing offense because of the amount of talent there is in the first round of this draft, not necessarily from. I mean, there's a lot of offensive line talent, and they just traded one away today. But how far are the Raiders realistically away from the playoffs? And do you think that they have to move on from Derek Carr?
definitely.
No. Yeah, they can't. I don't think they could win with Derek Carr.
No.
Yeah,
They-
they're not
They
going to win
definitely
with
don't
Derek
need to
Carr.
move on.
Bengal, any thoughts?
Nah, I'm just thinking. I know, Derek Carr is just so average, middle of the road QB.
Yeah, that's not true.
It's just he's not worth his salary. So if you're the Raiders, I think you probably try to trade him. But it just depends on how well they draft, because you can talk about the draft capital and the money they have all day, but if they don't capitalize on those picks, I mean, it's just they're never going to get better. It's kind of like what the Browns dealt with for the last couple of decades. It's just that you can pick up near the top of the draft all you want. You can have as many picks as you want, but if you don't capitalize on those selections, you might as well not have had them at all. So if they can capitalize on those picks, 3 years, maybe 2-3 years. It depends. Depends on a lot of things.
Yeah, they. Go ahead, Thomas.
Regarding Derek Carr, I think they should wait and see what quarterbacks are available at pick 24 and pick 27. And if there's a good quarterback, I think they should definitely take one.
I feel like if Kyler's available at pick 4, they're gonna go for him. I mean, because of all the rumors with Cliff Kingsbury taking him number 1, there's a high chance he goes there. But there's also none of the next 2 teams after pick number 1 need quarterbacks per se.
I really don't know what the Raiders are trying to do because they're kind of simultaneously adding and subtracting from their team at the same time. It's really weird. Like we saw they're shopping Derek Carr. We've seen many reports saying that they're trying to trade him before the draft. They already traded Khalil Mack in the offseason. Today they just traded Kalichi Osemele, probably the second best offensive lineman. That just shows how good their offensive line was last year. At least their interior with Gabe Jackson and Rodney Hudson. But
on paper, when they're not injured.
Yeah, on paper when they're not injured, yeah, obviously. But they're still adding, though. Obviously, they just traded for Antonio Brown. And today, about a couple hours ago, actually, Adam Schefter tweeted out that they're reaching an agreement with Jonathan Hankins. So he's going to beef up that interior line, which was looking kind of weak.
I mean, if you Derek Carr a couple of years ago was going to be an MVP candidate player. Until he broke his leg down the stretch of that
was he really an MVP candidate, or was he just in a good situation?
He was playing very well. I don't remember the exact stats. I don't have them on me right now. All right, but
wait. So you guys think they should move on from Derek Carr?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah,
I think that if Kyler Murray's there at pick 4 to take him.
I think I disagree because you see, and I feel like Antonio Brown likes Derek Carr as to where, and the organization likes him as to where they're not going to get rid of him.
I mean, that's a valid point. I mean, there's definitely probably going to be some early chemistry between Derek Carr and Antonio Brown if Derek Carr makes it past, this offseason and joins the team and joins the team, stays on the team. But realistically, I think that with one of those 3 first-round picks, they have to be looking quarterback.
I'm looking right now at his stats from from the season the Raiders went 12-4, 28 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, nearly 4,000 yards with about a 64% completion percentage,
and he
7.5 yards per attempt.
He broke his leg in week 11.
No,
maybe
his
week
QB.
12?
It was towards the end of the year. His QB record was 12-3, so he played pretty much to the end, except the last game or 2, and then they had to start Connor Cook for that playoff game, and we all could have probably predicted how that went.
But you have to admit that on paper, stats wise, that's a good season. 28-6 is a very nice ratio.
That is a good season. I was really high on the Raiders going into that year. I thought they had one of the best rosters on paper. I mean, obviously, it was working out well. They had a really good record before Derek Carr got hurt. Let me get this out of the way first. Derek Carr is not a bad quarterback. It's just for his salary, he's not kind of like the same situation as Matthew Stafford. I think Stafford might be a little bit of a better quarterback, but they're both being paid an extreme amount of money, and they're both not putting up the production they should be putting up for their salary.
They're not championship level quarterbacks, are you saying?
That's the thing.
I don't think Derek Carr is a championship level quarterback. I think he's a starting quarterback in the league, maybe on a middle to lower tier team, but I don't think he could be the starting quarterback unless he's in a really good situation. I don't think he could lead a team to a Super Bowl.
If the Raiders are trying to win, they should definitely move on, in my opinion.
But it's hard to find that franchise level quarterback.
It really is.
It is.
Once you find them, that's the reason why they're getting paid so much, is because that's their guy, and
that's why they should take Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
Bengal, are any of these
the Raiders kind of jumped the gun on Derek Carr a little bit after that one season, then paying him that massive contract?
I mean, probably. Look at Kirk Cousins gets the huge contract. It's just guys have those single good years or those few good years, and they're automatically, that's their guy. That's who they want.
Yeah. Bengal,
that's who it is.
Bengal, do you think that any of these quarterbacks projected to go in the first round are worth moving on from Derek Carr for?
Probably not. Not with a first round pick. Maybe 27, but I think more than likely, if you're looking to take a quarterback and you're the Oakland Raiders, the best move would be to take one at the top of the second. I don't view Dwayne Haskins as a first round talent. I don't view Kyler Murray as a first round talent. They're middling first round talents, but Dwayne Haskins is like round 2 for me. Kyler Murray's middling round 3. He just has too many mental bridges to cross and things to overcome, and that height's a big issue as well, because it greatly attributes to a lot of his incomplete, or I should just say the accuracy on some of his throws. He's just not a first round guy for me at all.
I mean, like, I feel in a similar way, but if you had to, like, who's your top quarterback in the class then? If it's not, I mean, like, if they are second round talents, is that like how weak the quarterback class is to you?
I'm just saying it's a weak quarterback class.
Yeah, I agree, but is that like, is it really like the top tier quarterbacks of this class are second round talents?
Yeah, I think so. I think Dwayne Haskins is the best quarterback in the class, but he's far from perfect. I don't really mind his inexperience at the position, only starting 1 year. It's just really when you flick on the tape, and that's basically what I do for fun. A lot of my videos is prospect breakdowns and things like that. So I'm watching, large percentage of games that these guys play over the course of their career, and Haskins improved greatly over the course of the season, but it's not like he's an Andrew Luck coming out of Stanford.
No,
and Kyler Murray's far from that, and Will Grier has a number of concerns, and Drew Lock has a number of concerns. Daniel Jones is pretty terrible.
Yeah. I was kind of embarrassed for having him at my number 1 before I actually put on his. Before I put on his game film.
He watched the Duke Temple game.
I actually started watching some Daniel Jones film, because I don't know what I was thinking. It was probably a month or 2 ago, maybe 6 weeks, and I was like, I don't really see any of these guys as huge, great franchise quarterbacks. So I decided to be stupid and go with Daniel Jones. But
how could you come up with a rankings list before you've watched them?
Well, I mean, I'd watched some of their college games, and I'd watched tape on Kyler Murray, and I had watched tape on Drew Lock, and I was starting my watching tape on Dwayne Haskins, and none of these guys were appealing to me, and Daniel Jones had a really good game, and I was like, you know what, whatever. It was probably recency bias, and totally regret doing that, because that was really stupid.
Yeah, you literally just watched the Duke Temple game and said he was your number 1 guy.
Yeah, it was. Okay, Thomas, thanks for exposing me. But yeah, now, I've watched tape on all of the top 5 guys in the class, and even some more, including Ryan Finley and Clayton Thorson. But I completely agree with what you're saying about there's no real huge franchise level quarterbacks that are like Andrew Luck out of Stanford. So transitioning into something else, there's some young quarterbacks in the league that have yet to, prove themselves to their teams. Maybe they're in year 1, maybe they're gonna go in the draft this year, maybe they're coming off an injury. I would like to get some of your guys' opinions on a couple of these guys and see where their floors and ceilings are, because they haven't really proven anything. And I know Bengal has some thoughts about a guy up in Buffalo who almost was throwing balls to Antonio Brown. But let's start with Sam Darnold, the New York Jets starting quarterback. What do you guys think? What is his floor and what is his ceiling?
I didn't really see much of him out of college, but I think he's a really good quarterback and he has a lot of potential.
See, I don't know if I agree with that or not. I'm not disputing the potential part, but
his last year.
It was just that. I know, yeah. You could say his last year he improved towards the end, but I'm going back to his USC days. His last year in college was not by far. It wasn't that good.
Yeah, I thought he was
definitely
terrible.
not number 3 overall quarterback performance. And his rookie year, you could tell he wasn't really, at least for the first half before the injury, he was inconsistent, too many interceptions, too many bad reads, looked uncomfortable in the pocket, just didn't look like an NFL ready quarterback. But then after the injury, after a few weeks off, kind of sitting behind Josh McCown, learning from him,
Calm
he
down a
did
little
look
bit.
better. He did look better in the second half, or after his injury. I can't deny that, but I still don't think I'd still take Josh Rosen last year over him, and obviously Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, I don't know about Rosen over him, but
Yeah.
it's a little questionable.
Bengal, any thoughts on Sam Darnold?
Yeah, I kind of agreed with the fella that said his senior, or I should say his junior tape at USC was not that of an NFL ready quarterback. I was pretty low on Sam Darnold
Yeah, didn't he come
coming
a
into the
fifth-round
draft.
talent?
Not fifth.
I think he said third, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I had him as a third round player. It's just inconsistency is a huge thing, and he improved a lot over the course of the season. His final few games were really solid.
Yeah.
It's just that it's really tough to evaluate a floor and a ceiling because, I mean, in theory, all these guys could have the same exact ceiling. It's just, what are you evaluating? It's arm strength, and I mean,
Yeah.
players can improve. Maybe not drastically in arm strength, but they can improve in mental processing with experience, with how they handle pressure, with decision making, with timing. I mean, all these things can improve drastically. Touch, the way they hit the different levels of the field, all those can improve in such a big way depending on time. So it's tough for me to evaluate what a ceiling is for a player or what a floor is, because at the end of the day, it seems like a ceiling is just how athletic are they, and especially for a quarterback, it's kind of weird because that's not their biggest trait. And some of these guys, it's just like the experience can be such a huge thing. I'm kind of rambling, but
It's all
it's
good.
really it's tough to evaluate a ceiling and a floor because, or at least a ceiling. A floor is maybe a little bit easier because you could look at someone and you could say, all right, that's a terrible player and he has too many things to overcome, and his floor could be out of the league in 3 years. We've seen that many times over with guys like Jamarcus Russell, obviously come to mind, and I mean, Brady Quinn was never all that good. He was a first round guy. So it's tough to evaluate a ceiling. I think floor is a little bit easier, but I think Darnold's he's decent. He's moving in the right direction.
You
I
also
guess
have to take into account the coach that goes along with that quarterback, like we saw with Jared Goff and Sean McVay,
Yeah.
transitioning from Jeff Fisher, who was probably one of the most mediocre to bad coaches in recent memory. But do you think the same thing will happen going from Todd Bowles to Adam Gase with Sam Darnold? Adam Gase more of a offensive-minded coach, while we have Todd Bowles, who's more of a defensive grit and grind guy, or do you think there's not going to be that much of a drastic improvement between the 2 years?
I think he'll develop better with Gase.
I mean, like, Gase is the so-called QB guru expert. Like, that's what they said he'd do with Tannehill. Not really. I mean, he made Jay Cutler okay in Chicago. Jay Cutler, I have lots of thoughts on Jay Cutler. But, like, scrapping floors and ceilings, like, I do like Sam Darnold's, like, when I watched a little bit of film on Sam Darnold in preparation to talk about him, just to refresh my memory on stuff I had watched during the season and a little bit after, I really liked his last 3 games. I know they were meaningless because a lot of the like the teams that he was playing were not playoff teams, and like he went on this like mini like really great set of games, especially against that Packers game. He played really well. I know his team lost in overtime. I just think that if he keeps up like what he did for those last 3 games, he could be a very good quarterback. But for the next quarterback on this list, how about Josh Allen up in Buffalo?
I never was high on him.
Yeah,
I think he's probably the worst out of the. Well, I wouldn't even say probably. I'd say that with confidence. He's the worst out of the first round quarterbacks from last year.
I definitely don't think he should have been taken in the first round.
Especially that high in the first round. I just think Buffalo was desperate. They needed to get rid of Tyrod Taylor. They traded him. I don't think he was even on the roster come draft time, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
They were kind
I
of just desperate and reached.
He definitely does have arm power, that's for sure.
yeah
They're an open guy.
he's obviously probably the most athletic aside from Lamar Jackson when running the football.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
But like his arm talent's there. It's just not. It's not. He's not accurate enough, and I did really like him out of Wyoming. It's probably because I had been following him since his probably sophomore year at Wyoming. But I mean, like, a little embarrassing. I did really like him, and I had him as my number one QB aside from Baker Mayfield.
So
in
your
last
number 2
year.
QB.
He was my number 2 QB last year. Feel really dumb about that. I don't think it's safe to call him a bust just yet.
No, obviously not.
Yeah, it's been 1 year.
Close to enough time to call them
Yeah.
busts. It's not even close enough time to call any of them busts.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know about.
You like tall quarterbacks.
I
You just-
yeah.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you like Daniel Jones.
Daniel
like
Jones.
previously I did. I mean, like, I don't like Kyler Murray as much as I like someone who's like 6'3", 6'4", because Kyler Murray's 5'10", and I'm not even sure if I believe that. But other than that, like, there's not a lot besides how great Josh Allen's arm strength is, how far he can throw the football, and
He looks great in shorts. That's always a
Okay.
positive.
okay, bro.
The Bills could have took Rosen with that pick, but they took Allen. So
Yeah. Bengal,
I
any
think
thoughts
that's going to
on
be a big mistake.
yeah.
any
I think
thoughts on
Rosen's
Josh
gonna be
Allen?
Way better.
Yeah, he's terrible. I think
Yeah.
there's more to arm talent than just being able to throw the ball hard.
True.
Arm
have
talent's
the touch.
largely in part to accuracy, touch. Yeah.
Footwork.
He threw 10
He's
touchdowns.
got potential, but you got to remember that. And I was a Josh Allen hater, according to Bills fans and Wyoming fans, right? But like, I think at the end of the day, he can progress into a good quarterback. Like, it's amazing how so many people are trashing Josh Rosen for not having a great season when
Yeah.
Arizona had absolutely nothing offensively,
What
terrible
I've been
offensive
saying
line,
the whole time.
no weapons,
Yeah.
and then bad coaching is what that came down to as well. David Johnson was criminally misutilized, and then it was a similar situation in Buffalo, at least from a personnel standpoint. No weapons. LaShawn McCoy was getting older in age and fighting injury the entire season.
True.
And then outside of that, no threats at all. Bad offensive line. So I think he's a bad quarterback, but he certainly didn't benefit from his situation at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, looking at Rosen, who's the next quarterback, there was not a lot to be like. There's not a lot of positives in that year, in that one season he's played so far, because of
The situation.
You
I
can't
really,
really
yeah.
attack him.
It's
though.
not.
it's
It's
kind
not
of
really fair to him to say that he's
Yeah, you can't
bad.
really attack him.
I'd
Yeah.
like to see him on a different team next year, which it's looking like that's going to happen.
possible.
I don't know if I want him on the Giants or not. I'd obviously welcome it with open arms, but I don't know if for the right price, I take him. I mean, obviously, I'm not expecting
What would the
to
right
give up like a
price be?
fourth.
If-
I'm not expecting to give up a fourth, but I don't want to give up more than like a second and then a couple picks next year.
If the Patriots traded for him, I would be very scared.
Oh,
I would be
my
so
gosh.
scared.
Oh,
Like,
I would be scared. I'm sure anybody would
think-
be scared.
smart quarterback, like, has all his technical stuff down. If you put him in a good situation, I think that he will be a very good quarterback. Probably the second, possibly could even overtake Baker as
Yeah,
the best
I don't know
quarterback.
about that one.
No, definitely.
If you put him on, if he gets traded to the Patriots to back up Tom Brady for, I don't know, a year, maybe two, depending on how long Tom Brady plays.
yeah, but you're not
Baker
gonna,
Mayfield will be the best quarterback.
Patrick
no doubt.
Mahomes developed under Alex Smith. Think
I
about
understand that, but that
think
was,
about-
Did you see
Josh
Patrick
Rose.
Mahomes play in college?
yeah,
Yeah.
but that's a. I mean, like, those numbers are extremely inflated. I mean,
You're saying
those
due to the air
defenses,
raid?
the Big 12 defenses are atrocious.
So he sat his rookie year, and then he started his second year. If you sit Josh Rosen again this whole year, that would mean if you start him the next year, I mean, it's his third year of his rookie deal already. That's wasting his.
Aaron
Probably-
Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I know, but that's wasting his. When you have him on a small salary, you're not
Aaron
gonna do that.
Rodgers
You're gonna want him
drafted
to
in the
start
first
next year.
round. by
Aaron
the
Rodgers is a
Packers.
once in a blue moon player.
I know, but
I
Aaron.
think people compare Josh Rosen and Aaron Rodgers. I don't believe
Yeah, I
that
don't really
because
see
I don't think
that.
it's right to compare anybody to Aaron Rodgers at the moment.
That's
But
facts.
I'm just saying, he was obviously not in a good situation. Probably not even ready to start a football game this year. Probably should have sat behind Sam Bradford. I mean, but like, I don't know. I don't know what else to say.
again, it just comes down to the situation he was in. There's no real way to evaluate him after last year. The other quarterbacks, we could say, oh, he looked bad under pressure.
Yeah.
You have Lamar Jackson, who barely had any weapons either, but he himself is a weapon. Unlike somebody like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson can make plays happen himself. I mean, I know we saw Josh Allen have some crazy runs last year, but I don't think he's on the same tier as Lamar Jackson. Then you got
Yeah.
Baker, who had, in my opinion, a very talented offense around him. I like Antonio Callaway, even though the drops are a big issue. I think if he gets that down, he could be a great receiver in the league. He had a great running back room behind him last year, especially with like Nick Chubb and Duke Johnson behind him, backing up, coming out the slot whenever needed. And then you also had
I agree with you. But there's one more quarterback who's not a rookie. He's not a second-year player. It's Carson Wentz. And I really want to talk about him. I'm sorry, Brian. I know you're a Giants fan. Also, Bengal. Sorry, he's on the Eagles. We know. But what do you guys think? Like, that ACL tear, like, really, I feel like really took away a lot of his confidence, took away a lot of his poise, and he did not play, in my opinion, up to his standards that he set during that really nice season on that Super Bowl run that he wasn't able to, complete.
If you're about to ask me if it was the right decision to move on from Nick Foles and keep Carson Wentz, yes, it was the right decision.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Taking
Yeah, that was
100
not
times out of 100.
That was not what I was going to ask. But what's the deal with Carson Wentz? Will he ever be as good as the
He's shown he has
some
he could be.
MVP candidate type player that we saw 2 years ago? Is it 2 years ago now?
Yes.
Yeah, it's 2 years ago.
2 years ago? Will he ever be that good again? I mean,
He didn't have a bad season last year.
He didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, but the injuries.
It comes down to staying healthy.
It does.
And he is the Eagles guy. Like, they're not going to get rid of him anytime in the future.
I mean, it'll be
But-
tough to get back to where he was, but he definitely can.
But like, one of the best things about him is his athleticism and the way he can make plays with his legs. And I'm not sure that he's going to be as confident to make, like, when Deshaun Watson tore his ACL in practice 2 years ago as well. Like, when he came back this year, so for the early part of the season, I saw him like very cautious with his legs, but by the end, he was running all over the place, making plays out of the pocket, trying to make
That's
plays with
because
his legs.
He's more known as a running quarterback. He's not a good passing quarterback, so he's probably been used to trying to run through hits and stuff. Carson Wentz, not saying he's not mobile, but he's a little bit more of a passer than Deshaun Watson is. So he's got to get used to moving around in the pocket more. He's got to get used to. I don't think running was his main concern, trying to come back from the ACL tear. It's more so just trying to get his confidence back, trying to get his game reps back, get used to game action again. And he didn't have a bad season last year. I mean, in the games he played,
That first Saints game, the non-playoff one, because he was
That
hurt
was-
from that. Obviously, that was horrible.
terrible, but
That Saints defense, I mean, yes, they played extremely well that second half of the season, but like, come on, like that's not a great defense who he got completely locked down and destroyed by. I mean,
I still
his
think the Saints had
throws
a really
were
talented
so
defense.
off. I mean, they're
Still
a
had
good
talented
defense.
defense.
Yeah,
But it's not like.
but they're
I know what
not.
you're saying. It's not like the Bears or anything.
Yeah, but the throws were extremely inaccurate. They were not there. He made horrible reads down the field. I remember one deep ball that was just into like triple coverage and easily got picked and just wasn't there. And I feel like I just feel like he lost his confidence, and I feel like that's concerning to me. Any thoughts, guys?
It's
You gotta
one
take the good
game we're
with the
talking
bad.
about here, and like
Yeah, you're
he's young.
you're only pointing out one game.
I know,
You're-
but
Yeah.
You're really negative on a lot of things, Joah.
Okay.
You really are.
Like especially the Super Bowl game. You really Goff isn't the greatest quarterback, but you ripped him as like he
Yeah,
was
you roast.
horrible.
He did play terribly in the Super Bowl. He had the point there.
I mean, but I stand by my claim that I don't think Jared Goff is a good QB.
Okay,
Oh, okay. The heck?
I mean, we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about another quarterback from that draft class, Carson Wentz. And
I'm just
so
saying, it's not as deep as you make it to be sometimes when you talk about certain games. Because
I know I'm looking at some game logs from this year. And let's see what his season was like. 25 for 37 for 255 and 1 TD and an interception. And then he had a couple nice games. And then there's that really horrible game against the Saints, and then he got hurt again. And
So really, if you had to sum it up, you just say he had an inconsistent year.
Very
say
inconsistent.
Don't say he was bad.
I wouldn't say that I don't say it's a bad year. I just think that when I watched his tape, and I just feel like he lost a lot of his confidence in himself making the plays. And I feel like he's trying to do too much. And I feel like when he does that, he makes poor decisions, poor reads, and like consequently causes, points to, he causes his team to lose games. But Bengal, any thoughts on Carson Wentz before we wrap it up?
I will, but also I would be remiss if Deshaun Watson came up and I didn't remind everyone that he absolutely sucks.
I mean, I was waiting for that one too. I was very excited for you to talk about him.
But no, I mean, Carson Wentz, he's a good player. He's just young. At the end of the day, he's probably started less than 40 games in his career. Now I don't have the stats pulled up on that, so I can't.
He's played in 40 games exactly in his career.
All right, well, I'm wrong then, technically. So, I mean, he's still a young player, and I think time remains to be seen coming back from an injury. Never easy, even if it is a non-throwing injury, so it's not going to affect really velocity or placement, maybe mobility a little bit, but just got to get some more experience in there. As a Giants fan, I would take him, any day of the week.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm not gonna take one kind of crappy season and say he's a bad player.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I just don't. I'm skeptical of what the future. I'm skeptical about the future for Carson Wentz, and I would like to hear a little bit more about Deshaun Watson and your thoughts on him, other than he sucks.
Well, I mean, his accuracy is never been good. His velocity on his passes has never been good, and you can get away with bad velocity if you're accurate. Alex Smith is a perfect example of that. Deshaun Watson is completely inaccurate, and his numbers have been boosted from fantasy football players that think he's absolutely unbelievable because he puts
did carry my fantasy team a couple years ago.
30
Yeah, same.
fantasy points per game or whatever it is. I don't play fantasy, so I don't know the numbers, but like he has benefit from having DeAndre Hopkins and just throwing the ball in the general vicinity and having DeAndre Hopkins come down with it. That's, I think, the biggest thing right now that puts DeAndre Hopkins above any other receiver is that his quarterback is a bad quarterback. Passing wise, he's an exciting player. He's fun to watch. He'll make some big plays with his legs, but his accuracy will let you down time and time again. And when a defense like the Colts that was flying around there in the playoffs says, all right, we're going to keep Deshaun Watson in the pocket, we're going to make him throw, and then Deshaun Watson kept throwing inaccurately. He got exposed. He finally got exposed, and I think It's only going to be the trend of his career moving forward. Is teams are going to shut down his running ability, force him to throw the football. He doesn't understand zone concepts. He doesn't understand timing on routes, and he's bad.
Yeah.
It also helps him out a lot having a running back like Lamar Miller coming out of the backfield, able to catch a check down anytime. Really,
That's very
probably
true.
one of the best receiving backs in the league.
There's a bit of a controversy on our show, and I'd be remiss if I did not talk about my quarterback, Mitchell Trubisky. And I would love to hear your thoughts on Mitch before we finish us off.
He's okay. That's about as far as I would go. He's okay.
Yeah, Joah thinks he's the Messiah.
Would you say Mitchell Trubisky compares to about the same level of Andy Dalton?
I think he's better than Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton's not very good, but I wouldn't say he's so much higher.
Thank you.
He's just I don't know. He's another guy that makes some plays with mobility, and then a lot of what the Bears' offense seems to be is run after the catch. Look at Taylor Gabriel. Even Trey Burton was a decent receiving tight end, but he won't beat you downfield from what I've seen, and I think that's been fairly consistent. If I was starting a franchise and I had to pick between a litany of quarterbacks, he would be pretty far down the list.
It's interesting. I like him a lot.
All right,
but
Josh Allen, number 2.
Hold on. Yeah. That was before. That was before I started watching more film, like a lot of film, because now I do. It's probably biased that I really like Mitch.
Yeah, he's
Clearly.
Yeah, I just think that he has so much potential and can be very good and will lead us to many
Yeah, I don't think
championships.
number 2
Bears fan.
overall good though.
Yeah, I'm a Bears fan. Oh, okay. Yeah, we know Patrick Mahomes is the obvious best quarterback in that draft class.
Well, you got to remember, Chicago, they didn't take him at number 2 only. They traded a lot of picks to move up to take him at number 2.
A third and
You
fourth.
have one
Okay,
spot to take him at number 2.
It's
Keep that in
fine.
mind too. Where I don't even think the 49ers would have taken him.
Do we
if
need
they
to
had
bring up Joah's quarterback argument between Mahomes and Trubisky?
No,
I mean,
I don't. Think
I think that I'd honestly really like Bengal to hear that.
that should
not
not
gonna
see the light of day
Yeah,
ever again.
Joah, why don't
Okay,
you why
I'm
don't
gonna
you say it?
because I think it's a valid argument, and I've heard from a lot of people that it's a valid argument. So, I did a Twitter thread comparing the situations of Mitch Trubisky and Patrick Mahomes, and I said my main point was that Patrick Mahomes developed into an amazing, awesome QB. Sorry for the double A adjectives, because of his situation developing behind Alex Smith for 1 year, Andy Reid and Matt Nagy as his coach and offensive coordinator. And I think that if you put Mitchell Trubisky in that situation in KC, that he would be extremely good now. And I feel like probably not as good as Patrick Mahomes was in that MVP 50 touchdown season. I think that, like, if you put Patrick Mahomes in a situation with Mike sitting behind Mike Glennon to start off the year, and John Fox as your coach and running the ball on first and second down and passing or running again on third down, like Patrick Mahomes would not be much better than Mitch is right now as a Chicago Bear currently. That was all my argument. Is that valid?
I mean,
I'm sorry you had to hear that.
no.
I'm very sorry
What I
too.
will say is you have a valid argument if you're saying that Patrick Mahomes would be less successful in Chicago than he was in KC, and that Mitchell Trubisky, if he was in KC, would be better than he is in Chicago. But at the end of the day, the way I see it is it's a game manager versus a playmaker, and Mitchell Trubisky will keep you in games, and Patrick Mahomes will win you games. Trubisky doesn't have anywhere near the touch, the accuracy, the throw power to throw those balls in those minuscule windows.
Of course not. Yeah.
Trubisky, he's a game manager to me.
Yeah, I mean, he did really well at, in that second half of the playoff game, until, tragedy happened for Bears fans.
Cody
I mean, he led us down the field. I feel like he could win us games in the future. I hope he develops into a playmaker. I hope this is just starting his career off as a game manager. I hope he becomes a great quarterback. But thank you for coming on today, Bengal. We really appreciate it so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And definitely subscribe to this man. He's awesome. At Bengal on YouTube. Follow him on Twitter at Bengal Designs. And you're very good at talking about football. And again, we really appreciate you coming on and giving us some of that expert insight that we really like. Thank you guys for listening to this episode. This will probably be up on YouTube. And we will see you next time. Bye.
Peace.